Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving headfirst into a mystery that's baffled investigators for decades. The Somerton Man. Picture this. It's December 1st, 1948, a beautiful summer morning on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, Australia. And right there on the sand, they find a man, dead, dressed impeccably in a suit and tie. But here's the catch. Every single label from his clothing's been removed. No wallet, no ID, nothing. Just a tiny scrap of paper tucked in his pocket with the words Tamám Shud, which means ended or finished in Persian.
Oh, this case is a classic. It's got all the elements of a truly great mystery. An unidentified body, cryptic clues, and a historical backdrop that just adds to the intrigue.
So let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What was it about the initial discovery that made this case so strange right from the start?
Well, like you said, he was found fully clothed, in a suit, on a beach. Not exactly typical beach attire, right? Especially in the 1940s.
Yeah, you'd expect something a bit more casual.
Exactly. It's like he was dressed for a business meeting, not a day by the sea. And then there's the fact that his legs were crossed. Again, not unheard of, but not the most natural position for someone who just collapsed.
Almost as if he was deliberately posed.
That thought definitely crossed the investigators' minds. Plus, no hat. Men almost always wore hats back then.
Right, it was practically a social requirement.
So for him to be without one, very peculiar.
All right, so we've got this sharply dressed man, obviously not dressed for a beach day, with all the labels removed from his clothes. What did the autopsy reveal? Did he give any clues about how he died?
Well, the autopsy, it actually made things more confusing. The pathologist found signs of internal organ damage, like an enlarged spleen and an engorged liver, which suggests something was seriously wrong, internally.
But no external injuries?
None. No obvious signs of trauma or marks on the body.
And they checked for poisons, right?
Oh, they did. All the usual suspects, arsenic, cyanide, the common poisons available at the time. But the tests, all negative.
So either a really sophisticated, hard-to-detect poison or something completely different.
You got it. Which brings us to the coroner's conclusion. Heart failure, probably caused by an unknown poison.
So was it foul play, or could it have been something else?
It's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, with the technology available then, it was impossible to say for sure.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing.
Exactly.
So we've got a possible poisoning, a man dressed completely out of place and no way to identify him. And then there's that slip of paper with Tamám Shud written on it. What's the story behind that, and how does it tie into the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam?
That little note was like a breadcrumb in a dense forest. At first, nobody even knew what language it was, let alone what it meant.
Had to be frustrating for the investigators.
Extremely. It was only after a public appeal that someone, a university professor actually, recognized it as Persian for ended or finished.
A pretty ominous phrase to find on a dead man.
You can say that again. And here's where it gets even more strange. A few months after the body was discovered, a man came forward with a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. This book of Persian poetry, he said he found it in his car. No idea how it got there. But guess what? This particular copy was missing the exact page containing the words Tamám Shud.
You're kidding. So the note on the Somerton Man was literally torn from this book.
Yep, the edges matched perfectly, no doubt about it.
What are the odds? But why? Was it a message, a clue, or just an unbelievably bizarre coincidence?
Your guess is as good as mine, and that's what makes this case so captivating.
Okay, so we've got the Tamám Shud note linking our mystery man to this specific copy of the Rubaiyat. Were there any other clues tucked away inside the book itself?
Oh, there was something, but it only made the case even more puzzling. Scribbled in the back of the book, there was a series of letters, seemingly random. They brought in everyone, cryptographers, even military intelligence, but nobody could crack the code.
A coded message. Are we talking espionage now? Was the Somerton Man a spy?
Well, it was the Cold War, so the idea wasn't completely out there. But without being able to decipher the code, it was just speculation. Another piece of the puzzle that didn't quite fit.
Right. And then there's the phone number found in the book, the one that led to Jessica Thompson, also known as Jeston.
Ah, yes, Jessica Thompson. Her involvement added a whole new layer of intrigue to the case.
So who was she, and what was her connection to the Somerton Man?
Well, that's a story for our next deep dive.
Yeah.
Because Jessica Thompson's role in this mystery is anything but straightforward, and it leads us down a path filled with dead ends and tantalizing possibilities.
Sounds like we've got a lot more ground to cover. But we'll have to leave it there for now. So join us next time as we continue our deep dive into the Somerton Man mystery and try to unravel the enigma of Jessica Thompson. We'll see you then. All right, so last time we were talking about this mysterious phone number, the one scribbled in the Rubaiyat that pointed to Jessica Thompson, or Justin. What can you tell us about her? Did she have any insights about the Somerton Man, maybe even know who he was?
Well, Jessica Thompson, she becomes a key player in this whole saga. But talking to her, it only seemed to make things more complicated.
How so?
When they questioned her, she denied knowing the Somerton Man, claimed she had absolutely no clue why her number was in that book.
But did they believe her?
Her behavior during the interviews was, let's just say, interesting.
In what way?
She was really evasive about certain things, especially anything about the copy of the Rubaiyat she admitted to owning. And at times, she seemed really on edge, like she was holding something back.
So they couldn't get a straight answer out of her.
Not really, no.
But did she say anything that actually helped the investigation?
Well, she did mention one crucial detail. She told them that during World War II, she'd given a copy of the Rubaiyat to a man named Alfred Boxall.
Alfred Boxall, another name added to the mix. Was he a suspect?
They had to check, of course.
And
Turns out, Boxall still had his copy of the Rubaiyat. The Tamám Shud page was right there. So he was ruled out as the Somerton Man.
But wait, if Justin gave him a copy, why did the Somerton Man have another copy with the page torn out?
Right. It's just another piece of the puzzle that doesn't quite fit.
Okay, so we're left with even more questions. At this point, I imagine the investigators were grasping at straws. Was that when the theories about the Somerton Man's identity really started to take off?
Absolutely. You've got a mystery man, a coded message, the Cold War in the background. It was a breeding ground for speculation.
And the spy theory must have been pretty popular.
Oh, yeah. Especially with those clothing labels removed so meticulously, like he was trying to erase any trace of who he was.
Like something straight out of a spy movie.
Precisely. Some folks even thought the Tamám Shud note could be part of a secret message, maybe a signal to other agents.
But they couldn't crack the code, so it was all just a guess.
Exactly. A good guess, but a guess nonetheless.
And then there's the theory about a broken heart, the jilted lover.
Ah, yes, the romantic angle. With Jessica Thompson being so secretive and her possible connection to Alfred Boxall, it's not hard to imagine a love triangle.
So the Tamám Shud, the ended, could be a message to a lost love.
Possibly a final farewell.
It's fascinating how the same piece of evidence, that note, can be interpreted in so many different ways.
That's the beauty of a good mystery.
So for decades, the case went cold. The theories kept swirling, but the Somerton Man remained nameless. Then, in 2021, they decided to exhume the body and extract DNA. What prompted that after all those years?
Well, technology had advanced so much, DNA analysis became a powerful tool for solving cold cases.
They finally had a chance to give this man back his identity.
Exactly. And in 2022, they got a match. The Somerton Man was identified as Charles Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne.
A name at last. Did that solve the mystery?
Well, they had a name, but now they needed a story. Why was Carl Webb in Adelaide so far from home? And how did he end up dead on Somerton Beach with all those strange clues?
It's like solving one riddle only to find another one underneath.
Just like...
And that's where we'll pick up next time, as we delve into the life of Carl Webb and try to understand what led him to that fateful day on Somerton Beach. So we finally got a name. Charles Webb, an electrical engineer. But it sounds like getting his name just opened up a whole can of worms.
It did. It really did. Like, we finally had this one piece of the puzzle, but it didn't quite fit with anything else.
What did they find out about Carl Webb? Anything that could shed light on why he was in Adelaide or what that Tamám Shud note meant?
Well, at first, everything seemed pretty normal. Born in 1905, worked in Melbourne, married to a woman named Dorothy Robertson. A regular life, you know.
Right. Nothing out of the ordinary.
But then things start to get a little strange.
How so?
For starters, nobody reported him missing.
You'd think someone, his wife, his family, somebody would notice he was gone.
Exactly. It's not like he was some recluse. He had a job, a life, you know.
Maybe he wanted to disappear, to start a new life somewhere else.
That's a possibility, for sure. And then there's the fact that he and his wife were estranged when he died. Dorothy had actually filed for divorce.
Okay, so we have a man who's maybe going through some personal stuff, separated from his wife. He ends up hundreds of miles away, dead on a beach, with this cryptic note in his pocket. Does that make the jilted lover theory more likely?
It's definitely something to consider. Maybe there was someone else, a secret love, and the Tamám Shud, maybe it was his way of saying goodbye.
And what about that coded message in the Rubaiyat? Could it have something to do with this mystery person?
We can't know for sure. To this day, nobody's cracked that code.
So even with a name and some background on Carl Webb, we're still left with a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it?
The code, the phone number, the poison, the motive. It's like they all belong to different puzzles.
It is a bit like that, isn't it?
But that's what keeps cold cases so interesting. Always something else to think about, another angle to explore.
Exactly. Maybe there's a connection we're missing, some tiny detail that could change everything.
It makes me wonder if there are people out there, people who knew Carl Webb. Maybe they have a piece of information, something they didn't think was important at the time.
Absolutely. Maybe a conversation, a letter, something that could unlock this whole mystery.
It's a reminder that even after all these years, there's still hope for answers.
There is. There really is.
So, what's the takeaway for our listeners today? What can we learn from the Somerton Man mystery?
I think it shows us how much we don't know. Even with all our technology and advancements, some mysteries just stay mysteries.
It makes you realize that there are things we may never fully understand.
But that's okay. It's the searching, the trying to figure things out, that's what matters.
Exactly. So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep digging. Read about the Somerton Man, explore the theories, look at the evidence.
And who knows, you might just stumble across something that everyone else has missed.
That's the beauty of a good mystery, isn't it?
It is. It keeps us curious, keeps us asking questions.
And maybe, just maybe, it teaches us a little something about ourselves along the way.
I like that a lot.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another look into the world of the unexplained.